Good evening. Before we get started tonight, I'd like to welcome Remco Bromlett, our chaplain of the Milton City of Milton Police and Fire, to lead us in our invocation.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Happy New Year. Let's pray together. Our God in heaven, at the first City Council of the year 2015, we present ourselves once more as a people in need of you. We are thankful for the blessings and the challenges of the previous year and recognize that all good things come from above. And so in that vein, we pray tonight that you will continue to pour out your blessings upon this city, on our mayor and city council, and our city staff, our police department and fire department, on our schools and commerce and the neighborhoods and the residents that live there, that we would enjoy peace and safety and a good life. We pray for competence and wisdom as we serve this city together. Beginning tonight with this meeting, that the decisions that are made here tonight and the discussions that are held will benefit the well-being of this city and all that dwell therein. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Milton City Council for Monday, January 5th, 2015 to order. The city clerk, please call roll and make any general announcements.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be happy to call roll for the January 5th, 2015 regular meeting. I would like to remind those in attendance to please silence all cell phones at this time. Those attending the meeting who would like to provide public comment either during the public hearing or during the call for public comment, you are required to complete a public comment card prior to speaking on the item. There is no public comment for consent agenda items or items under first presentation. Those called to speak will be taken in the order that the speaker cards were received by the city clerk prior to the beginning of tonight's meeting. All speakers will identify themselves by name, address, and organization if applicable. The City Council may allow public comment on either an agenda item or general public comment from a representative of such an organized group or association, provided that such an individual shall file a notarized affidavit that they have the authority to speak on behalf of said organization on a form provided by the city clerk prior to the agenda item being called. Demonstration of any sort within the chamber is prohibited, so please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, outbursts, or dialogue with any person speaking. Please show the same respect to the person speaking that you will expect to receive yourself. Anyone in violation will be asked to leave. As I call roll this evening, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Joe Lockwood.
Here.
Councilmember Karen Thurman.
Here.
Councilmember Matt Coots.
Here.
Councilmember Bill Luss.
Here.
Councilmember Bert Hewitt.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Longoria.
Here.
Councilmember Rick Moran.
Here.
Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Just want to welcome everybody here tonight. We appreciate you being here. If our city clerk would please call the next item.
Our next item is the approval of the meeting agenda. This is agenda item number 15001.
Okay. Do we have any other items to be considered on the agenda? Council or staff, do you have anything? Okay. All right. Do I have a motion on the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we've got a motion from Councilmember Longoria, second from Councilmember Hewitt. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous for passage of the agenda. Do we have any public comment, Sudi?
We do not, sir.
Okay. If we could move on over to the consent agenda, and Sudi, if you would sound the items.
First item is approval of the December 8th, 2014 City Council Work Session Minutes, agenda item number 15002. Next, approval of the December 15th, 2014 City Council Regular Meeting Minutes, agenda item number 15003. Our third consent agenda item is approval of a construction services agreement between the City of Milton and Peak Pavement Markings, LLC, to provide roadway striping. Agenda item number 15004, our final consent agenda item this evening, is approval of an extension for the amendment to the contract with Tyler Technologies, Inc. for Encode software to add the business license module. This is agenda item number 15005.
Mayor, I'll move to approve the consent agenda as prepared by staff.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion, Councilmember Loss, second by Councilmember Coots. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, if we can move on to our reports and presentation. Judy, if you would please call that out.
This next item is a proclamation recognizing Home Depot for Freedom Park efforts. This is being presented by Mayor Joe Lockwood.
Okay. Tonight, we are pleased to be honoring our Home Depot store in Roswell, near Holcomb Bridge, and also our store in Milton. They were very instrumental in bringing their team to Freedom Park on November 8th to help beautify the park and helped us out with an amazing job. So I'm going to read this proclamation, and I'd like to ask you guys to come forward. Okay, this proclamation recognizing Home Depot. Whereas on November 8th, 2014, representatives from the Home Depot store number 149 in Milton and number 1755 in Roswell came to Freedom Park to participate in a community improvement project. And whereas, as part of that effort, the Home Depot demonstrated its commitment to supporting the communities they serve. And whereas, through this kind gesture, these Home Depot employees displayed their dedication and honor to veterans of the armed forces. And whereas, more than 60 pallets of landscape materials were donated to the city for Freedom Park with a value exceeding $3,000. And whereas the Home Depot brought a team of nearly 30 people who enthusiastically worked over 6 hours spreading the landscaping materials throughout the park. And whereas all these efforts beautified Freedom Park in preparation for the city's first Veterans Day celebration. Now therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council of the City of Milton, formally thank the men and women of Home Depot stores in Milton and Roswell for their service and contribution, and that's given under our hand and seal from the City of Milton, Georgia, on the 5th day of January 2015. And before we present that, I'd like to ask Councilmember Bill Lusk had a couple of comments.
Yes, along the same subject here, and as long as we have a representative of Home Depot here, I'd like to personally thank him. I'd like to read something from the January 2015 American Legion magazine. What we saw here this past fall was just a small part of the national program that the Home Depot Foundation has contributed towards. And I'll just read this here. It's since 2011, the American Legion and the Home Depot Foundation have teamed up to make critical home repairs for veterans and renovate Legion posts across the country. The foundation has pledged $1 million to help veterans and posts in the coming year. We know we're going to be working together for a long time, Home Depot Foundation Executive Director Gavin Gregory said in announcing the plan at the Legion's 96th National Convention in Charlotte, North Carolina in August. The Home Depot and the Legion have worked together for at least a decade. The first project involved renovating the fairgrounds at Post 194 in Lincolnton, Georgia in April 2005. The Home Depot started working with the Legion on a regular basis in 2011 when the company shifted its focus to giving back for veterans, or to veterans, rather. The company initially contributed $140,000, but its outlay tripled the following year. One of the largest Home Depot Legion projects to date involved renovating Post 233 in Loganville, Georgia in September. More than 350 Home Depot employees helped touch up the post main hall, lobby, entryway, and exterior. The volunteers also built a new deck, added picnic tables, painted, and installed new flooring. It does not mention here post 201 in Alpharetta that Home Depot almost completely renovated this past year, transformed it into a 2015 structure that had built back in the 40s, I believe, or 30s they had been. It's amazing what Home Depot has done to help veterans and to help legions and legionnaires across the country. In addition, I want to say specifically, Home Depot Roswell store contributed in-kind materials to the Veterans Crosses Project here in Milton. And Debbie Davidoff was instrumental in setting that up, and Home Depot in Roswell also donated materials for the plaques that you saw in the pictures at Freedom Park. So, outstanding program. I commend you for working for Home Depot and being a representative here tonight. Thank you.
Okay, and if I could ask the council to join me in presenting these proclamations to Home Depot.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm gonna get it with my cell phone so the board will meet it on Facebook recording. Usually it helps.
Yeah, we were seeing your face there.
And 1, 2, 3. And let me get a couple more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for being respectful.
Very much appreciate it.
Okay, Sudie, if we can move to our first presentation.
This item is consideration of an ordinance to amend Article 6 of Financial Management Program, Division 7, Debt Management Policy. This is agenda item number 15006.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the first presentation item.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay. Motion by Councilmember Morrig, second from Councilmember Thurman for approval. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous approval. Okay, if we can move on to our first public hearing. Sudie, if you'll please sound that item.
First item is consideration of the issuance of an alcohol beverage license to Windward Parkway Restaurant, LLC, doing business as Ray's New York Pizza, located at 5230 Windward Parkway, Suite 105, Milton, Georgia, 3004. The applicant is Joseph Karam for wine, malt beverages, and distilled spirits. Agenda item number 15007. Ms. Stacy Inglis.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The applicant has followed all the city's ordinances, and staff recommends approval of the alcohol beverage license. This is an existing location. It's just simply a change of ownership.
Okay. Do we have any public comment on this?
We do not, sir.
Okay, I'll close the hearing, and then any questions from council? If not, I'll open up for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 15007.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Hewitt, second from Councilmember Kuntz. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. We can move on to the next item, Sudie, if you, public hearing item, if you'll call that.
Our next item is consideration of the issuance of an alcohol beverage license to Article of Faith Enterprises, LLC, doing business as Rico's, located at 14155 Highway 9, Suite 500, Milton, Georgia, 3004. The applicant is David Lupica for wine, malt beverages, and distilled spirits. Agenda item number 15008. Ms. Stacy Inglis.
Okay. Also, this applicant has adhered to all of the city's ordinances and everything. This location was the former Zola location in the same strip center as RISPA. At the very end there, I think Kababish was there for a little while. So this is new ownership, new restaurant, and staff recommends approval of the alcohol beverage license.
Okay. Do we have any public comment on this?
We do not, sir.
Okay, I'll close the hearing. Any questions or comments? Bill?
So what's the name of the establishment?
Rico's?
Rico's.
Is it Rico's? Okay.
Okay. Anything else? If not, I'll
Thought I saw another name.
go for a motion.
I'll make a motion, Mayor, to approve agenda item number 15-008.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Coots for approval, is second by Councilmember Longoria. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. No items under the zoning agenda, so if we can move on to unfinished business. Sue?
This item is consideration of a resolution and ordinance amending the charter for the city of Milton, Georgia. Agenda item number 14344. This was discussed at the December 8th, 2014 council work session. Also was discussed under new business and voted on at December 15th, 2014 regular council meeting. Mr. Ken Gerard.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. This is the second presentation of a potential resolution that would actually change the City of Milton's charter with respect to the specific grant of authority to allow us to enter into leases and basically maintenance and operation agreement with respect to city property. I think we have gone over this a couple of times at this point. I've told you how expansive your charter is anyway, but from a belt and suspender standpoint, I think I'd like to see the language actually in the charter with respect to the ability to engage in these sorts of leases or operation or management agreements. You'll see that if you are to adopt this evening, it would change your charter in two places, Section 1.12 and Section 6.32. The process after this is if you do adopt it this evening, which is required, we will then send it to the Secretary of State, and it will be actually added to the local laws that are published annually with respect to the laws of Georgia. Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any questions for our city attorney on this?
Ken, just to clarify, we can enter into leases now, but this actually allows us, there's just no question anymore once this is in the charter is what you're trying to do.
That has been my position, Councilmember Coons, is that given the extraordinarily broad language in your charter already, I have taken the position to the city manager that we could, but candidly, we've been doing some additional leases of late, and I just think out of an abundance of caution, I'd like to bring this to you and make express what I think is already implicit.
Right.
Okay. Any more questions, comments? If not, I'll open up for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve agenda item number 14-344, consideration of a resolution and ordinance amending the charter of the city of Milton, Georgia.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion for approval from Councilmember Thurman, second from Councilmember Coons. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimous. We can move on to new business. Sudi, if you'll call the first item.
This item is consideration of a resolution of the Milton City Council to extend the 2012 through 2015 strategic plan through the end of 2015. This is agenda item number 15009. Mr. Chris Lagerblum.
Mayor, Council, good evening. This is an agenda item brought forward in the hopes that it's more of a housekeeping issue than anything. As you recall, we adopted our first strategic plan. It was a 3-year plan, and it was adopted to carry us through the years 2012, 13, and 14. It would be set to expire in 2015. I can tell you that we report against it, and you get those reports so you know where we are in conformance with our strategic plan. We also spent a lot of time with this last budget cycle going through the capital projects plan to take that from 5 to 7 years. What I'd like is for us not to be without a strategic plan. I mean, I believe our strategies, if you tell me otherwise tonight, are still consistent with those that we adopted with the beginning of this plan, which are build relationships, promote the equestrian lifestyle, protect and promote open space, provide responsible and responsive government, and structure economic growth. I think those are still consistent with the vision that you all have for the city of Milton. And if they are, what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask you to adopt this resolution so we can extend the strategic plan for 1 year. I'd like to bring and kind of give you a snapshot of the future. We're working on some pretty cool performance analytics type things. I'd really like them to be a driver in a performance measurement, performance management type model as we model the next strategic plan. I think that the economy is in a better place now than it was in 2012 when we adopted this first one. And I think we can go a little bit further than 3 years. So I'm asking, I don't want the city to be without one. I think it's important that we have a strategic plan in it as one of our tools. If nothing has changed and these strategies are still consistent with your vision, this will just simply do that and extend it for 1 year while we do what I hope is some pretty cool stuff in 2015 that's a little bit more cutting edge. But I'll be happy to answer any questions. That's all this is intended to do.
Okay, any questions? Joe?
So, Chris, I mean, I would agree that to have a strategic plan is better than not having one. I mean, we set those items up, like you said, 3 years ago. We've met on them the last couple of years, checked on, progress related to those. Are there things that are left undone at this point with regards to any of those initiatives? Is there still work to be done? I mean, because having a strategic plan with no work, isn't really doing us any good either. So I mean, I just want to know that we've got work that's being done towards those, and there's still work that needs to be done.
We still do. Things are in process. For example, impact fees, for example, is something that was discussed in the strategic plan. We're having a work session on it next Monday, so it's not at a point that I would say we're at a finish line, but I could tell you that the plan's got a bow on it and it's done. I think that in the next 365 days, you've given us a pretty good roadmap for the items that you want done as a part of the strategic plan, but also as a part of the budget planning process that we went through. So there is still work to be done, and it's not a plan that's sitting there without any without providing any direction.
Anybody else? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve agenda item 15-009.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Morag for approval, and second from Councilmember Longoria. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimous. Sudi, if you'll please call the next item.
Our final item this evening is consideration of a resolution of the Milton City Council to readopt the 5 GMA ethics principles for recertification to be a Georgia certified city of ethics. This is agenda item number 15010. Mr. Chris Lagerblum.
Mayor and Council, almost the presentation for this item was sounded in the agenda item reading itself. This simply is a resolution that you all will adopt from time to time if you want to continue to be a city of ethics with GMA. This reaffirms the council's pledge to conduct its affairs according to these 5 standards. Number 1, serve others, not ourselves. Number 2, use resources with efficiency and economy. Number 3, treat all people fairly. Number 4, use the power of our position for the well-being of our constituents. And number 5, create an environment of honesty, openness, and integrity. If you continue to believe all 5 of those things and want to remain a city of ethics with GMA, we need to adopt this resolution as part of the recertification process.
Okay. Is there any questions? Okay, I'll open up for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I like being a part of a city of ethics, so I would approve or request that we approve a resolution of the Milton City Council to readopt the 5 GMA ethics principles for recertification to be a Georgia certified city of ethics. Agenda item number 15-010.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion for approval from Councilmember Kuntz with a second from Councilmember Thurman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimous. All right, we'll move on to reports. Anybody have anything on council they want to report on? I'd just like to wish everybody a Happy New Year and look forward to a good 2015 with all you guys working together. So, all right, I'm going to move on to staff.
Everybody's gotten nervous.
Everybody's waiting for me, but I just
They're
haven't
waiting
to
for
say
it.
I've already moved on.
You already moved on.
You must have a
so-
New Year's resolution.
I figured Joe already knew what I was going to
Back.
say, so I just left it there.
Nice second there.
Yes.
Mayor and Council, I've got a couple of staff reports tonight. One comes in the way of an advertised staff report. The second is just more or less an update based upon some email exchange that we've had today. We're going to start with the second one and then maybe work back to the first one. We're in the process of needing to name this building that we have been calling the Hopewell House. We are in the process of needing to name it because we need to order plaques and all for ribbon cuttings and openings. And we decided on the Broadwell Pavilion the last time we met, and we got comfortable with that name. And you gave me the direction to go and try to locate some historical family names related to the Hopewell House and see who might have owned it or lived there as a place to start. We did that research and came up with a list of 10 to 12 different names of people that have either owned the land that it's on or have owned it more recently and lived in it. I'll cut to the end and then see where you all want to go. After doing that and after having a good several email conversation exchanges with Norman Broadwell, who I think is probably, if there's one person who knows more about that house and the history of the area, it's probably Norman than anybody else in this community. Maybe Mr. Day, they could swap stories and they'd be close. But Norman brings the house back as far as a land transaction that occurred in the 1830s, where the property was transferred from a gold trust into its first owner, but then was sold. The lot itself was sold for $50 to the Bird family, to Thomas Bird Sr. I found out that there's many different Birds. There's Thomas Bird and Sr. and Jr. There's Daniel Bird, I think, and there was 4 or 5 different Birds. But the first transaction looks as though it was to Thomas Bird Sr. In the 1830s. We've kind of bantered that around today, and naturally what falls out is all of a sudden you realize if we call it the Bird House, quite quickly you're going to think of something that a bird flies into, and maybe that's okay. I went and did some web searching today, and believe it or not, in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, there is a birdhouse, and it's a birdhouse by 2 people whose last name are Bird today, spelled B-Y-R-D, and it's a bed and breakfast. And they very quickly capitalized on the bird and put them together, and it's been quite a marketing tool for them. I think Councilmember Lusk had a great suggestion this afternoon by email, and if you haven't kept up with emails this afternoon, he offered up the idea of it being the Thomas Bird House, and that probably no matter what we call it, if we use the word bird in it, at some point it's going to be called the Bird House. We've toyed with Bird Center, Bird Community Center, Bird. We put anything you could put after Bird. I don't know that that's just not trying to play tricky with words, and ultimately we don't end up accomplishing anything in the end anyway. So I guess I'd look for your direction. If you have some tonight, I think probably what I saw a couple of council members respond to that they were good with Bill's modification was the Thomas Bird House. But I'll throw it now maybe to the mayor to see if there's enough of a consensus on the council tonight that we can name this particular facility, we can move forward with getting it open.
The comment I'll make first is, to Bill's point, that makes a lot of sense. But the only thing I would want to, be sure if we were to go versus the Birdhouse versus Thomas Birdhouse, are we fairly comfortable that, are we putting the right name versus, like Chris, as you had said, there's probably 5 different individuals with the last name Bird that had a part of that. So it would be my only concern by calling it out in a full name.
There is in recorded documents, there is that first land transaction, the oldest one that we can find. And the oldest one that we can find that is documented does transfer the land to Thomas Bird. So if we're going to use the rationale that it was the first transaction, now the Birds swapped it around a good bit for the next decade. Mm-hmm. It went through multiple people, multiple birds. But
kind of flew around.
I guess the only question I would have is, since we do also know that there is a Thomas Bird Sr. and a Thomas Bird Jr., does that Sr. and Jr. play any relevance into naming it after or for a specific person? Mm-hmm. And then what did we come up with, the Birdhouse Senior Center?
Senior Center.
Anybody have any comments? Or
Senior, the first owner.
That's
of the
correct.
Property.
Since we're not sure, I would just call it the
Thomas
Bird.
Bird.
I mean, they can both claim it that way.
I think it gives a lot more authenticity to call it the Thomas Bird House. A lot of other historic structures throughout the country use the full names of the original owners of houses like that. And I propose that that be the official name. However, just like everything else that's abbreviated in our society here, it will, the colloquial term will be birdhouse, I'm sure, but I think the official name should be the Thomas Birdhouse.
Just seeing some nods of approval, or so I believe the majority would be
support
okay
that.
with that.
Okay, good deal.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. The second thing, Council, that we're bringing forward to you tonight, and this is in response to your request at the last meeting, is some specific numbers related to the city's health insurance and whether or not the council would have interest in being included in that plan. Let me be very clear on the onset of this, because it has been talked about in the local media here lately about a city just to the north of us who have had some controversy over the mayor potentially providing benefits to his girlfriend who wasn't on the payroll. This is absolutely and in no way fashioned in anything similar to that. This is a very, very, very legal thing to do that just would be a policy directive of the council if they chose to pursue it. So, having said that, let me walk you through what I think I heard from you as way of direction, and then how that comes across in this, probably the top sheet of this packet that you have, and you certainly can take it and digest it. The city participates in two different health plans for its employees. We call them the base plan and the buy-up plan. The reason we call them that is because the base plan is kind of the one that we set our baseline from. And then there are some employees that are more risk adverse than others who want to have the ability to buy up to a better plan or contribute money into the base plan so that they have lower deductibles if they want to carry less, cash exposure risk or have different office copays. So we've historically offered between 2 and 4 plans. This year, we are just the 2 plans. We have the base plan and the buy-up plan. I can tell you that we have then costs that are attached to each of those plans, and they're attached monthly. There's 4 categories in each one: employee, employee and spouse, employee and child, and family. Family is any number of children. You can see that there's really no rhyme nor reason, although they generally stay consistent. There's no rhyme nor reason why, for example, the employee and spouse monthly, if you look in the green box, why it's monthly is more than the buy-up plan. That wouldn't seem intuitive. You would think that the base in all circumstances would be less than the buy-up. But in that particular line item, for example, it wasn't. And you can see the difference is rather small. But not only do the plans take into consideration the plan design itself, but they also take into consideration of who is in each individual plan, and that's how the insurance companies price it. So if we take ourselves, just say 10 of us, we take ourselves, and we each decide who's going to go in what plan based upon our health questionnaires at the beginning of the year, different risk and different values attached to the different plans, and that's how they end up being priced. So they track pretty consistently most of the time, but that would be what would explain the difference between why is the buy-up a cheaper product than the base plan in that particular line item. I believe you've asked us to provide to you the dollars that it would be a total council fund, meaning that if the council or mayor council wanted to be a part of the plan, that you didn't want to see numbers that would say the city would offset that cost by anything, that you wanted to know what the total price of the plan is. That's what's provided here. So you could answer the question very honestly that in this first year, if you were to agree that you wanted to be a part of this plan and wanted to pay these premiums, that you would cost the city of Milton no additional money, meaning our premiums aren't going to change. It would not be wise of me to say and lead you to that type of a statement for year 2, year 3, or year 4. It very well might be that there is no additional cost to Milton, but the one thing we can't predict for is what adding 7 members to it, not knowing what their backgrounds are or health conditions, although the council would then become part of the questionnaire process along with the rest of our plan participants in the second year. So then any existing medical conditions that might cause an increase in, or decrease for that matter, in the premium would be captured in the second, third, and fourth, and fifth year. So I hope that made sense. If it doesn't, I'll try to clarify it. But Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is who we have at this point, has indicated that they would be willing to bring a class of employee on, which would be the elected officials, a class of employee on, and it would not have any bearing on our premium for this first year. This is probably something you want to take home and digest. I mean, if you're into plan designs, there's probably things that you would look at here and go, okay, what's the difference between having a prescription copay and not? What's the difference of having a max out-of-pocket or certain levels of deductibles or office copay visits or all that kind of good stuff? What's behind the cover sheet is our plan design documents themselves, so that if you want to look through them and say, gosh, the first first 4 pages are our base plan, and the second 4 pages are the buy-up plan. You can kind of do a apples-to-apples comparison, or if you're a spreadsheet kind of person, you can put them side by side in spreadsheets. I'm happy to share with you what any of those documents that we put together for employees. I'm also willing to schedule, if you think it would help, if you want to potentially consider this, schedule time that you could either meet individually with our members of our human resource staff, or even probably drill down further to our benefit broker, who does all of the negotiating at the beginning of the year for us and on our behalf to get these numbers as good as we can get them. So be happy to answer any questions at this point. You might not have them yet, and that's okay. I'll take them at any point. And I'll just look for reactions or direction.
Phil, question?
Having just gone through this whole process myself, first part of December, I'm somewhat up to speed on this. I may not have any interest in it, but there's some questions that may come up with some other folks here. In the green box here, in the base plan, if someone were to take the family plan, conceivably, given the salaries for council here, council member would actually have to pay into the plan. The premium, the annual premium, is greater than the salary that would drop.
That's correct. If you wanted to make sure that it was a straight zero offset, we would have to structure how that would work.
Going forward next year, there's no guarantee that these rates will hold next year, so could even further have to contribute into the plan, or at least for 6 of us here.
With the Affordable Care Act, there's not a whole lot of certainty in pricing, and I think your assessment of watching prices increase is probably pretty accurate at this point, unless something were to change with affordable care.
One other question. When are the enrollment dates?
Our open enrollment is right before the beginning of the fiscal year. So in August and September is when sometime in that time frame, because we try to partner, because the costs are fluctuating, we partner them with the period of our fiscal year so that we can control for funding them.
Okay, are these rates based on our fiscal year or the insurer?
Based upon our fiscal year. This is a plan that kicked off on October the 1st of last year.
Okay.
So we're just entering quarter 2. Now, you all could enter the plan at this point, because that would be considered a change of status, adding somebody to the plan itself, and you can go through those changes of status where all of a sudden you have a child or end up unemployed or end up employed somewhere else, or you can have a certain set of qualifying criteria that open up the enrollment for you. That's how we would treat you at this point if you wanted to enter it in the middle of the second quarter, is just as a change of status.
What would be required for this to take place? As far as, is it a change in, is it just a resolution, or is it a charter change, or what exactly is it?
No, honestly, Councilmember, it's not even, we don't really even have to have a resolution drawn up. I mean, this is something that we can, essentially the council could direct me to do, and I could just go make happen. And we could then work through the enrollment process. Now, I think, and you could tell me otherwise, but I think that it's probably appropriate, because of sometimes the scrutiny that this type of a thing gets, I think we would be wise to adopt a resolution, and adopt the resolution with the certain conditions that we are allowing this class of employee to be created, so that you could be ultra transparent with the public, so that they are well aware that this isn't a council, this is a council-funded thing for council members based upon policy that they've set for themselves. So
we could state in the resolution that the city would not be responsible for any of the premiums that the council members would have to pay up? I mean, obviously, you can't change how somebody's health affects the whole plan as a whole, but you can put in the resolution that at no time would the city pay any of the premiums for the.
That's right. It would not be required by the insurance company, but I truly think it would be wise to go ahead and state all those things on the front end.
Okay, Bert?
Would this, would other, are we considered like part-time employees? Would we have to offer benefits for other part-time employees? Or does that class, was that?
That's the way around this, is to create a certain class of employees so that we would not open up the exposure of having other part-time employees that we would have to offer health care benefits to that we were not required to by law. It's very difficult to describe the role of a council member because you can't say that you have a non-flexible schedule of a certain number of hours or less that then I can apply towards the entire employee base so that we don't impact others. So that's the way to do it. And you all could include, if you wanted to, you could include other people in that class. So if you wanted to say one of the options the municipal judge had, for example, because it's kind of a non-traditional, also paid by session basis, you would have the authority to do that as well.
My concern about this is I understand that the city wouldn't bear any, in theory, additional cost, for the premium. But to me, it seems that everybody's health insurance has gone up over the last, every year it's gone up. And it almost seems like it's a benefit that we would get that the average citizen wouldn't be able to get. And that's where I have a little bit of heartburn with this. Understanding that, it's not a cost type of thing, at least in year one. So that's kind of my concern with it, just so y'all kind of know where I'm coming from.
Sure. Anybody else? Any questions or comments or any feedback?
Yeah.
Joe?
So, Chris, I wasn't thinking that that it could potentially impact a future cost, but now that you mention it, it makes perfect sense that the risk pool changes, the costs change, and so what would be our strategy for a year two? Because I'm pretty sure it'd be a very difficult thing to extract the exact cost out of that situation and apply it back to the individuals that want coverage. So we're good year one because we have no impact. Year two, we're out of luck.
Well, and in year two, I think one of the things that the council would have to just get comfortable with is that the costs that were being passed along to the elected official were the premium costs, because I can't even find out what in year two. I mean, I know that we all fill out confidential health questionnaires. I can see certain parts of that, but none of it's ever attributed to a person. And I don't even get reports on a quarterly basis on anything other than claims and catastrophic claims that allow me to track our plan performance, but I have no idea who's responsible for what part of it. So I don't know how to answer that question. I don't think it can be done.
And the likelihood that it ever, brings the average down, you probably wouldn't see that either. So I don't know.
Now, the only other thing, and this is kind of dangerous because I'm thinking on my feet and talking out loud, and that's dangerous to do, is upon separation. Because one of the things that's required upon separation is somebody to have the ability to continue their health care insurance through the whole COBRA thing. And for an employee, that's 18 months, and for a spouse, that's 36, I believe. And for 18 months, there's, I guess, the opportunity that somebody could separate from the council either by form of not being reelected or term out. So we know that those are two things that could occur. There's still some, I guess, exposure from a former council member adding 18 months worth of risk. I can't think of a better word, risk to the plan. So
would they be paying?
Something to be wise.
They'd still be, even if they weren't there, in order to be able to be on the coverage, they would have to pay out of their own pocket.
They'd have to pay the COBRA. That's right.
And at that point, doesn't that convert to a direct payment to the insurance company? The city would be out of that transaction?
That is correct. The COBRA payment is made, yeah, that's right. we hear about
Still
it.
in the pool.
Well, yes,
Still in
you're,
the pool.
you're still in the pool, and you still influence the pool as though you were
I
here.
think that was your point, yeah.
I have a very, very, very good example of that going on right now.
Okay. Any more questions? I could ask the question either way. Is there any folks that are not interested in looking at this anymore, or
I'm not.
is there, any folks that are interested in going further, digging deeper into this and looking at it?
I mean, my thought is obviously I was the one that brought it up, just asking the question, whether it made sense for people that wanted to run to have the option. I don't think I would take advantage of this particular plan as it was, but who knows what would happen in the future. Just because we might say it's okay, doesn't mean necessarily that everybody would use it. So I don't know if that makes sense for us to have an option so that, perhaps as a lot of sole proprietors are running for city council or whatever, we spend a lot of time doing this job as well for others. It's just a question of whether or not it makes sense based on the current environment, so that we have good people that want to be in, to lead the city. So just a question. And I think it makes sense to have it as an option. Doesn't necessarily mean it will be adopted.
One of the things you could do, and you all could choose to have it as an option without anybody at this current seated council partake in it, is you could create that class, and you could direct the city attorney and I to come up with a resolution that would define how that class was created, meaning that the premium cost would be borne by the council member, that there would be no incentive to not take the insurance, because one of the things we do with employees today is if they have insurance and can prove that they have insurance from another place. Many of our firefighters who spent more than 15 years in Fulton County prior to being employed by Milton have lifelong health care. One of the things we can do is, rather than pay premium costs for them, is we can incentivize them to stay with the Fulton County Health plan, and we do that, and it costs us about 25 cents on the dollar versus carrying them on our plan versus incentivizing their non-participation in our plan through dollars on a flexible spending account. You could direct us to say, create the class, make sure that the costs are borne by the council member and that there's no incentive for opting out. And then if you all were to adopt that resolution and have it as an option, nobody would have to take it. I guess it would take at least a majority of the council to agree that the class should even exist. So maybe that's, I don't know if I'm hearing strong enough direction to work on that resolution or not. I guess I'll just let.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Sorry. Do we have examples of cities around us that have similar programs in place, or would we be unique in that regard?
No, you wouldn't necessarily be unique. There's examples. There's examples to our immediate south. I mean, so we touch the city of Alpharetta, and their elected officials have option for health care. So. I don't have to go far before I could tell you you're not doing something that somebody else isn't doing. I don't know that I could sit or stand here and say it's 50-50 or 25-75, but no, you're not. It's not abnormal to have this conversation.
Okay. Still not getting a real sense if we even do. Is there interest in looking at a possibility of, as Chris said, identifying, the class, specific class, and then talking about it more, or?
I'm not opposed.
Okay. Anybody else want to?
Yeah, I'm not
I
opposed
think
to
it's
it.
a waste. I'm opposed.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty ambivalent on it, so.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of it, but at the same time, with all the negative publicity now, that's what I'm concerned about, is the fact that it will be somehow or another be construed as something costing the taxpayers, and that absolutely I would not support anything that costs the taxpayers. This is a part-time job.
It almost seems to me, and I know, and I understand the cost, and I understand what we're talking about, but it almost is like voting yourself a pay raise. That's how the feel I get of it, even though it's not a monetary thing. It's a benefit that the average citizen wouldn't get, and that's my concern with it.
I disagree with that. 100%.
Well, the only.
But that's okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Everybody can have their.
I respect that, but I disagree with that.
Opinion on it. Yeah, I could see both sides on that. You know, to your point, the average citizen doesn't get it, but the average citizen is also not working part-time.
Right.
Yeah.
For a certain company, and if they had to pay that,
We signed up
bear
to
the whole
serve.
cost, so. But again, I think it's, you know, it sounds like maybe there's more in favor than not of at least looking at that class, but again, some of us are kind of not.
I'm not so sure about the timing of it, and we brought up the case here of our neighboring city that's going through a little situation like that, so it's.
That's a good point, though. The question I was going to say, if we had a neighbor from the north, did their elected officials have health coverage? Do you know?
I don't know if they do, but I don't think the elected officials.
That
significant
scenario
other
was where
does.
somebody got added as a,
Oh, no, exactly, but I'm
Yeah.
just asking the question, you think if they're adding friends on there, that they must.
Ken, do you know the answer to that question, being with your affiliation with
They must be
Forsyth
on there,
County?
too.
Somebody's got it.
I'm not sure.
Ken, do you know Forsyth County, are they?
Forgive me, Forsyth County, their compensation plan that has been approved by way of home rule allows them to get not only a part-time salary plus benefits that are afforded to employees.
Sure. You know, to Bill's point, though, about being the vote, this almost, if the council wanted to move forward looking at this, then by doing a resolution or being very specific about the costs and the individual bearing all the costs or whatnot, you know, the timing of this is probably even a good thing, because if, you know, we're very transparent, saying, you know, no one's getting insurance or getting a discount, it's the full cost is borne. I don't know that's maybe a good thing to have the timing, you know. It's
All this,
you're clarifying it with all this stuff going around in the media, so.
it's all in the presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think it would be important that what we discussed, that actually is in the resolution, that it's a cost, it's a no cost to the city, so it's not a added benefit, or not, excuse me, it's not a cost, it's not a pay increase, but it actually is stated as you bear the cost, it's optional if you want to play into it, but it's cost neutral to the city.
I think, you know, what I'm hearing is I'm not getting a clear dividing line, yes or no, to explore it. I'm feeling that there may be, out of what I'm hearing, maybe more that may want to at least explore it. And that's something that, you know, after tonight, council can weigh in individually to Chris or whatever. If you're not interested in exploring it or whatever, I'm kind of getting a sense that maybe it might want to be explored. But, you know, certainly you can let Chris know if individually, if you have no interest in exploring it, or if you do, and then we'll get a direction.
Maybe by way of a recommendation, and this would be essentially a no-cost recommendation. Before I invest some time with the city attorney and actually starting to put pen to paper in the form of a resolution, we still have an opportunity where we're publishing next Monday's council work session. I don't know, I might be offering something I can't deliver on, but it might be worth inviting Todd, our benefit broker, to come to a work session. And from being in the business, he could he could probably better and with more detail describe what if any risks are now, what if any risks are in the future, and how a separate class, et cetera, how all that works. If you have interest or are still on the fence, we only have one agenda item, albeit it's long, on next Monday's work session. I could add a short second. If
I'd be in favor of that.
in favor of that before investing time with the city attorney? Okay. There's no harm in that.
Yeah.
It'd be one of those.
Information is good.
Yep. It wouldn't cost us a penny other than a couple of minutes.
Okay.
And maybe you could also let us know kind of what, is this common? Do you have other cities that are doing it too, just so we.
And probably our consultant can do that. Yeah.
He represents many cities in the area, so
Okay.
be good for y'all to meet him anyway. That's all I have tonight, unless you have questions. Sorry, I needed to defer to Carter. He's got an update on a road closure that's going to happen.
Just had a quick update on the waterline work that's being done by Fulton County on Bethany Road. They'll start that repair work tomorrow, and the road will be closed from 9 to 4 for 3 days while they do that work. They'll plate that and open it back up each evening at 4 o'clock for rush hour traffic.
Okay.
That's
All right.
it.
Bill?
Can't they route them down Red Road instead of Brittle and Summit?
We are using
You
Red
wouldn't
Road.
believe the traffic that comes down there.
Yeah, for northbound traffic, we are sending them over to Red.
All right. If we don't have anything else, I'll open up for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
It's dangerous.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Thurman and a second by Councilmember Longoria to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous.